Welcome, everyone. We are super excited to have Nikki Ivey on the show. Nikki is a senior strategic account broker, that is a mouthful, at OpGen, a former CRO, a LinkedIn top voice, and my favorite part, a fellow Floridian. 3 Floridians in one show. Nikki, welcome and thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited. It sounded almost like the beginning of one of those jokes, so 3 Floridians walk into a podcast. Who knows how we're going to finish that sentence today, but hopefully there's a payoff. I don't know.
Should we talk about if you Google Florida man and your birthday, or should we leave that for later in the show?
We'll save that as a special treat.
All right. I love it.
Cool. Awesome. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us. It is called Revenue Reimagined. We like to start something a little controversial. So you're in the front end of the sales function in revenue, but if you were to wake up tomorrow, like if you were ready to do something else inside the revenue function, which one of those would be? Would it be marketing? Would it be CS? Would it be RevOps? Like where would you find your niche?
I think it would be CS.
Okay. Why?
Well, it's actually the seat of all of the roles I've held, right, across go-to-market. It's the one that I haven't actually gotten to do. But dealing with or working with people who are already customers has always been like something that's exciting to me. There's a problem that a lot of go-to-market teams, either they are conscious that they don't have it right, or they don't even know that they're experiencing the problem, and that is how difficult it is to stay in front of your customers and collect meaningful, engaging stories from them. In fact, if I had a business outside of what I'm doing now, that's what it would be. It would be putting a hard process around, right, a dedicated department or offshoot of CS, and that's what they do all day. Because marketers do not have time to give you much more than the couple of testimonials and case studies that you've had for the past 24 months, right? You've seen this. There's this tension. The sales team is like, we need more stories. And then marketing's like, we don't have the time. And then CS is like,
use what you have.
Right. CS is like, I'm talking to these folks every day, but okay. But they too, right? They too don't have time to make those stories. So that's what I would do. I would start this hybrid, proactive like an SDR as far as reaching out, creative like a marketer as far as how these things are written and how engaging they are, and then, customer focused like a CS rep would be. I gave you guys a lot, but that's just because I got so excited.
I love that. I think it, and CS right now is kind of like on the hot seat, right? So CS is like expansion, like net new on top of funnels, not happening. Like, how do you get people to expand? So I love that answer.
You said something that's near and dear to my heart, right? You're talking about how it needs to be highly personalized, how it can't be this like scripted message of, oh, hey, Nikki, we need a testimonial from you. It's the same as the outbound you get, right? Hi, my name's Adam. I'm with, Box Company. And because you're a CRO at ABC, you must struggle with, like, it doesn't work. Right. And you spend a ton of time in top of funnel. Why do we still keep doing it if it doesn't work? Like, how do we change that shit?
Personalized stuff. Well, here's the thing. I don't know. It does work. It does work for a lot of people.
Okay, tell me more.
I wish I knew why it worked. Right? That I can't tell you, except that, right? Except like math, right? So we don't want to believe that the numbers game element of what we do still exists to the level that it does. The reason we don't want to believe that is because none of us likes the way it makes us feel. Yeah. But truth be told, the folks in these industries and these companies that are doing this generic outreach, they would have folded a long time ago, right? If it didn't work. Now, I do think now that machines are learning how to do that kind of outreach, right, better than human beings, that will hopefully start to go away. But yeah, the simple answer to why people are still doing it is because it is still working for them and they're able to get away with it. But again, with the rate of technology, specifically AI, and with the climate of the economy, you're not going to be able to get away with it for very long. And that's why
And that's why you want to go with the CS, right? Because then you can actually create that personalization.
Well, yes. I'm like, hey, can I talk to the people, please? Somebody point me in the direction of the people.
Yeah. It's funny, and I don't want to throw anyone or any company under the bus, but I think when you look at, let's just call it the sales engagement platforms out there now, they have conditioned us. I have that same cup sitting next to me, by the way. They have conditioned us to just drop people in these sequences that are largely AI driven. I'm part of a group that literally just dropped thousands of AI prompts. And I played with it. Like, I'm not going to lie. I played with it, but like the AI prompts, they're not good, Nikki. Like I'm still getting results that start with, "Hi, my name is Adam J." No one wants that email.
When I tell you, all I wanted to do was like grab this AI tool and like shake it. Cause I asked it several times, right? I was like, in my prompt, leave out phrases like, "Hope you've had a good day." And then I was like, all right, leave out pleasantries at the beginning, right? Be straight. It was like there was not enough that I could do or say to this machine to help it understand how to be human. And then I looked at how much time I had spent trying to teach this machine how to do what I already know how to do.
And you could have built it your damn self faster.
I could have built it myself faster. But it's tricky though, right? None of us wants to get into this, what seems like, losing battle, frankly, right? About humans versus the machines. It doesn't make sense to keep having that conversation. And yet, right, what we do for a living does, especially at this moment, put us at odds there. So right now, I think it's just going to have to come down to doing this job in a way that you can sustain. And I personally can't sustain doing this work, trying to compete with a machine or trying to produce at the volume of a machine, and certainly trying to teach a machine how to speak like me.
Well, it's like Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule, right? You're going to have to learn something. And so you got to go through the process. And what comes out the other side may not even work for you. But sometimes you don't go through the process, you don't even learn what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So I go back and forth with it. I spend a lot of time trying to learn it, trying to figure it out, prompt engineering. I actually created Adam. Look, he's not even really like AI.
A much more casual version of yourself.
Adam. That's what happens in Florida.
This is great.
So Nikki, I think I know what the answer to this one's going to be, but I'm curious. What's one go-to-market strategy that is not well publicized or used, but makes a huge difference? And maybe it's personalization. I don't want to lead you, but I'm curious, if it wasn't personalization, what's that one strategy that you use or you've seen used that makes a huge difference that not a lot of people are hearing about?
I think it's what you back your personalization with, right? So, I guess the simplest way that we can recognize this is, there's a lot of emphasis on not just the subject line, right, in a piece of outreach, but say the preview text, that first line of copy. And so we've talked till we're blue in the face about how important that is. But then for a lot of folks, making that next connection between whatever that first personalization piece of copy is and the meat of the body of the email, or more specifically, right, your actual value prop, whether you're talking on the phone or sending an email, that's the hardest part for a lot of people. And I think that it's because we just don't talk tactically or actionably enough about how to just move from one phrase or part of the email to the next. So I think when I'm teaching people this, we're talking more about the heuristics of the message than the words of the message itself. Because that's, for me, what it comes down to, right? Like, what are the parts? Just the same way we learn the alphabet or how to write a sentence or a paragraph. You learn the alphabet, then you learn the parts of a sentence, right? And so when we're looking at how we write messaging, you're looking at the parts of the message, and then it just comes down to the tone with which you deliver them. And it kind of feels like stepping outside the matrix when you do that. Because and I've had to learn how to do this, because when you're consulting, of course, you're not working with just the one value prop, right? So it would be pointless or useless to me as a consultant or just as a seller if I only figured out how to do that relative to one value prop. When you take it when you come out and you're just looking at the heuristics of it, like I mentioned, then you can take that framework and apply it to other pieces, right? So something like that first line, instead of saying what the words will be, I'll put something like, low pleasantry, direct, reference to podcast, right? Something like that. And then the second one is, this one actually is just a phrase. The phrase will be something like, and it got me wondering. It sounds very simple, but that phrase to get you from that first personalization piece, like, hey, you said something on the Revenue Reimagined podcast, Adam, about, the importance of personalization. And it got me curious. So I went down this rabbit hole of all things, insert company name.
I love it. I love
right?
it.
You're making yourself human, right?
Yes, yes. In a way that a computer can't do. I'm trying to tell you. I tried.
I literally wrote it down and circled it. Tone. We talk about it so much when we talk about cold calling, right? We talk about, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's the tonality. Like you can, the old saying from an old coach of mine was like, you could tell someone F you with a smile and it'll be received very differently. So when you're cold calling, it's all about that tonality. I think you just hit the nail on the head with the emailing and the outbound. It's still about the tonality, but it's so much harder to teach that and to learn that when you're writing than when you're speaking, because most people don't think about it like you just did, right? They don't like read this back. Does it sound how you would say it if I was on the phone with Nikki? No, it doesn't. Then don't send it.
Yeah, I mean, and for part of that, I think for me anyway, getting to that, there's actually more you have to unlearn, right? I had to unlearn suppressing my personality in professional interactions because like so many of us, right, we were taught that that doesn't have a place here in these professional settings. But so the other part of that, and this script, by the way, it's pretty much the same, whether it's an email or a phone call. But that one of the first pieces that I decided to go ahead and leave in this copy as far as the tone is this interjection of the word yes, exclamation point, right? So say in this example I was just giving you where I would say something like, you mentioned this about personalization, and then let's say I quote you, right? I'll put in quotation marks, say it's an email, the words that you said. And then in that email, right, the very next sentence is all caps, the word yes and exclamation point. So I'll say, you said, whatever anything, is it ought to at least begin as being personal. That's actually Meg Ryan from You've Got Mail. But anyway, whatever anything is, it ought to at least begin as being personal. So I would put that sentence and then I would say, yes. And I'd say, I heard that and I had to reach out. Now, if I were to just, right, if I hadn't unlearned that piece, then who knows, right? Maybe I would have just said something like, you said something and I wanted to reach out. I don't know. But it's that unlearning this impulse to block and leave out those parts of you that make you who you are. And listen, you all are listening to this. You're like, okay, we've heard this before. Of course, you personalize. But these aren't things that we learn or hear one time and then we never need to be reminded of them again.
It's such a good point, but I think one of the things that you said that was different than everything else is like you'll actually put phrases in there for them to go think about it. Like sometimes you'll put like bracket, like name, right? But you're like putting like things to make you think. I used to do a lot of mind mapping. When you mind map, you do like one or two words and it makes you remember a bunch of things you're supposed to do. Yes. And that was where my mind went when you said that. Like, okay, it's like a mind map. I should do something emotionally driven in this section. Let me go find it on LinkedIn. Let me find it in a podcast. Let me find it in a newsletter, etc.
It really works on phone calls too. I would, when I'm teaching cold calls, this is really where this like shines, because imagine the difference between that. I could give you the best cold call opener, right? Delivered like one of these standard ones, right? That we're hearing, permission based, right? Do you have 27 seconds for me to tell you why I called?
Okay, let's go.
Fine. But if I, the next person, call you, right? And I say, man, what you said about XYZ, I'm getting all excited. Let me calm down and deliver this to you the way it would actually go. Okay,
don't suppress your personality. Give us the excitement.
All right. So ring, you're Adam. You answer the phone.
Hello. I don't
Hey,
answer my
Adam,
phone
this
like that.
This is Nikki Ivey. Listen, we haven't spoken before, but I heard you on the Revenue Reimagined podcast, and you said XYZ, and it really resonated with me. And I was like, first, I have to reach out to this person. You said blah 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 blah, and I couldn't agree more. And then you just wait.
He or she who speaks next loses.
Learned that from car sales. But yes, but so this person, they're absolutely certain.
Yeah.
You called to speak with them. They're flattered because, Adam, you say such smart things on podcasts.
You're boosting up the ego. No, Dale, notice how she said Adam, not Dale.
Yeah.
But the key though, right, is whatever that quote is, it better damn well get us right to that next part of the call. So you said something about personalization, right? And then I say, you said that and blah, blah, blah. And the reason why, right? So after I heard you say that, then I tell you that I researched your company. So I'll say something like, so Adam, so I saw that you said that, and I wonder what else we had in common. I went into this rabbit hole about your company, and I actually saw that you all are doing XYZ, right? And it got me wondering, and there's your impact question. Mm-hmm. Right. So something like you looks like you just hired a bunch of new reps, and it got me wondering, what's that look like for your frontline managers? A lot of the time people are, having a hard time with capacity, right? Trying to train those new reps without shortchanging, right, the established reps when it comes to time they spend coaching. So we're in a conversation now. We're talking about something that's relevant to you and I. You got on that podcast and spilled your guts about everything that's important to you relative to revenue. And all I did was cue you into the fact that we have this in common, and we equally have these ideas about, making this process better for everyone.
So,
or something.
First off, this should be the first episode we charge for, because you're dropping legit fire advice here. And listen, and Dale, I believe I speak for you, but I didn't start as an SDR, right? I never had to actively, truly cold call, a lot. I've done it, but not a lot. So this, I empathize, but I've not experienced it. I have, however, received thousands of cold calls, and I can tell you, Nikki, not one has ever been like that. And if it was like that, and I do take them, because and again, speaking, neither one of us are hypocrites, right? We'll take call. I can't tell my team to cold call and then never answer the phone. But had people approached me like that, listen, I'll sit here and tell you all day long I don't have an ego. The fact is we all have an ego, right? So when you are propping someone up and talking about, hey, I took the time to listen to you on the podcast, you're calling out something very specific, you're tying it back, that's gold. So,
but let me tell you,
yeah, please.
Like anything else, it can go wrong. The key here is that it has to be sincere. Mm-hmm. So listen, it goes back, you have to, in order for this really, really, really to be done the most successfully, you have to genuinely care about the problem that you solve. Specifically, you have to genuinely care about how what you do makes a positive impact on the people that you solve the problem for. Because, I could listen to a million revenue podcasts, right? And there are a million people say things that are interesting or that are relevant to my value prop. But then if I get on a call with you, say Dale this time, if I get a call with you, Dale, and right away, you'll know if I am feigning interest in, fintech or cybersecurity or whatever it is. So, and I think this is a thing that increasingly, when we think about how we communicate as unambiguously as possible that we are human in our outreach, it's going to cause us to have to think about, where we even choose to sell in the first place, right? Who we even choose to sell for in the first place. I think that's going to be more important than it has ever been. Some of you may have come up in a time like I did, where it's if you're a salesperson worth your salt, you could sell anything.
I was literally going to ask. You see a lot of people saying that, it doesn't matter. Just go where the money is. So you say that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
There was a time when it worked. But everyone is wiser now. And you know what? you know
The
what?
buyer's educated.
The buyer's educated. But that's getting to these points where like there's these reasons why we all know we should be doing personalization, right? For the buyer. But selfishly, sales, for a lot of us, all these ugly parts of sales culture and ways in which it discourages us from being kind to ourselves, or like acknowledging that we have sad feelings when people reject us and ghost us, right?
Mental health is real.
That all I found for me improved once I just like started allowing myself to be sincere and started having fun. If I call you and I say, can I have 27 seconds to tell you why I called? Even if that is successful, which it is for lots of people, no tea, no shade, you do what works for you. And it has worked for me. But if I do that, it's a very different experience from if I'm delivering a spin on that, right? The way I do. So if I were going to do a permission-based opener in a way that made me feel the most human, it would sound, something like, say, Dale, you said, is this a sales call? I would say, yes, but if we do it right, it doesn't have to feel like one. Should we give it a shot? I've asked you for your permission, but I've asked you in a way that you haven't heard or seen on LinkedIn several other people asking.
The echo chamber. The echo chamber of LinkedIn, right?
Yes, and I feel like a human being when I say that. Yeah. It's just the truth when I'm calling you. Yes, it is a sales call, but it really doesn't have to feel like one if we do it right. If I can get on a call and tell you the truth and laugh, we're good.
Especially if you believe in the value. And you said something interesting. You said, like, how many people really believe in what they're selling and they didn't just take a job for a paycheck or whatever it is? Like, what's that percentage? Is it like a coin flip 50-50? Like, I'm super curious now that you said that. I don't know. I think I had to start digging into that a little bit more because I think my gut would be there's more people selling things that they don't truly believe in. And to me, revenue's always in sales, because I grew up in the sales world, has always been a reputation game. So whatever I say or try to sell you at this moment in time has repercussions later down the road because all the world's small.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not honest and true to myself today, what does that mean for tomorrow?
Yeah. And listen, I'll be really candid with you. When you all likely know this as well, as a seller with some measure of visibility, right? There, in the rise of influencer marketing within B2B sales, there is the opportunity and for some, the temptation to, right? I see you, Adam.
You see the look.
To work to produce sponsored content and to work with, the newest, catchiest AI tool out there. But where my heart is and what I've been talking about is about being unambiguously human, right? Then can I in good conscience, right, promote some tool that's like, here is this fully, AI, it creates the sequence for you and it writes all the email and blah, blah, blah. Even no matter how cool I think that is, right? If I don't,
it's like it goes against itself.
And you got to pick, not that you have to pick a side, but you have to believe in something. Pick a perspective. That's right. You have to have a point of view.
Reputation is everything. And I believe that strongly. Listen, I know lots of people, we all know them, who do sponsored posts and they make I know people who make $1,200 a post. God bless them. My general rule, I, Adam J, will not do sponsored posts, because if I'm going to post about you, it's going to be because I either use your product, believe in your product, have trialed your product, and I love it. I'm not going to take the money for it, which is why you don't see me doing it.
We stumbled into unpopular opinion territory. Yeah. I think you might make some people mad with that one, Adam.
Listen, I am not going to suppress my personality looking at my notes. I am unapologetically me. I don't believe in it. I have no problem for people who do. It's just not what I want to do to my brand.
So yeah, I mean, cat's out of the bag, right? I have done sponsored content and I continue to be open to it because in the other direction, like I'm highly susceptible to inspiration.
Yeah.
I'm highly susceptible to becoming enthusiastic about something, especially if the problem that this thing solves is one that I personally had been up against, right?
So
Right.
that's very
And-
different, though. That's very
It's
different than
So
someone saying, hey, Nikki, you have whatever, 50,000 followers. Please go, I want to pay you $300 to say that, this is the best software ever. That's very different than you saying, holy shit, this resonates with me. I see value here. I believe in this. So I'll do a sponsored post. That's different. I don't mind that. What I mind is the people who have never used said product, have no use for said product, couldn't get any benefit out of said product, but shit, I'll take your $500 and say it's the best thing in the world.
Oh, that's happening all over LinkedIn and in a bunch of different areas, right?
Yeah.
So there's and I don't mean, I'm a very positive person, I promise. But we got to crack some eggs, right? If we're going to make this omelet, right? And here, follow me with my mixed metaphor here, right? The omelet is healthy sales culture. And in order to get there, the eggs are just, looking at ourselves with this critical eye. And if we do that, then we see that, there's a lot of people talking about products that they themselves have no use for, which is harmful to new sellers and founders. And, people who are just trying to start up or set up an outbound function or any type of go-to-market. And then there's also people touting tactics that they have not tested, but that makes sense in theory.
In framework. I have a framework. I give you this framework. You go test it out. And then when it doesn't work, you paid me for nothing.
Listen, I am a big believer, and I've said this a few times, Nikki, I agree with you 100%. LinkedIn is a platform where everyone is suddenly an expert and can now sell shit. I'm a big believer that if you're going to sell a course, if you're going to sell a downloadable guide, if you're going to sell yourself, that first page should have to be like your receipts, right? Your proof that you've done this before, and someone has to click a big, giant, friggin' yellow acknowledge button that says I've verified this. Because there's a reason I don't, as part of my consulting services, I don't do a ton of top of funnel sequence create. It's not my skill set. That would be referred out to a Nikki or someone else.
Yeah.
I'd imagine it's the same reason you probably don't, teach people how to build a finance team. You're not a CFO. So stay in your lane, but you could go on LinkedIn and say, hey, I have all these great tips and let's talk about how to be a fractional CFO.
Well, see, and here's the thing. I get why. I don't mean to, be unfair to folks. The problem is, you kind of hinted at it here, is if you, like I, have just been spending most of your career nerding out on top of funnel, it means, right, there's this number that it's something like a message needs to be tested. Say if we're talking about email, 150 to 200 times that message has to go out in order to have any discernible, data from it, right? Anything meaningful that you can conclude from it. So if I'm doing top of funnel and consulting on it, that means all of my ideas, I have to have tried 200 times at least before I'm going to put it in front of someone and say, hey, this worked for me. And so I think that for a lot of folks, they're so excited about the idea and it's worked for them enough in their little micro test that they feel confident putting it out there. And I don't think that that's coming from, a dishonest place. But for me, that's why I take my time as when I'm consulting on top of funnel. It's why I've decided to really focus in on that one thing, because it's all about me seeing the difference between what happens when you teach people sales tactics in theory and when you teach them those same tactics in practice. So yes, I've gotten on the phone with people several times and said, yes, it's a sales call, but it doesn't have to feel like one if we do it right. That was one of my favorite ones, or I was most excited to call 200 people with that message because I was, again, super excited about the idea. If you try it and it doesn't work for you, get in my inbox and be mean to me about it. But if it does, get in there and be nice to me about it.
And the reality is, something just won't work in certain companies with certain products, with certain markets, with certain, that's why, all these frameworks or things, you actually have to test them out. Test, taste.
Yeah.
And it may work in one space and not work in another space. And, you have to be okay with that. You can't, say, I'm going to hold on to that. So, and I want to go back to what Adam was saying earlier. This may be the first podcast we have to charge for since there's so much fire coming in. But to that point, one of the things we love to do is give back to the audience. And Nikki's been super grateful. She can give a consulting session to somebody, and you can pick her brain and all these great things that she's talking and like expand out on them. She'll look at your top of funnel. So when you subscribe to the newsletter, we'll pick somebody out and hopefully you guys get a ton of value from what
for free. Like
I'm gonna like sign up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might create some. I'm gonna have my wife create an alias and sign up. Super helpful, Nikki. Can we do some rapid fire to wrap it up? Is that cool with you?
Yes, please.
All right, let's rock
and roll. She's gonna kill the first one. I know she's gonna kill this.
I love it. What song would best describe your revenue strategy?
Ooh, I'm gonna say "Get Up 10" by Cardi B. Ooh. Because when you're doing your revenue strategy, and the way I think about it, a lot of it is trial and error. Like I said, that's that ugly piece we don't want to talk about. But at myself in the mirror, I say, we gonna win. Knock me down 9 times, but I get up 10. Because that's really what it's about. That trial and error we were just talking about, that understanding. And as a CRO, this is one of the scariest things for me, was this is the plan, okay, on which all of our revenue goals for this next quarter are hinged on. It has to work. It has to be right and all of that. But I lost most when I was so rigid in how soon this plan had to, be executed successfully, how perfect it had to be in order for me to even try it. And so listening to Cardi B talk about recovering from failure at least 9 times kind of helps me get through. Sorry, that's not rapid fire at all. Keep going. Cut me off.
That's some great content. If you had a crystal ball, what's one trend or strategy that you see today, and this may be controversial because it could dichotomize, that will be around in the next 12, 18 months?
What's going to take center stage?
What's going to take center stage is content creators becoming an even bigger part of B2B marketing. It will, though, in my estimation, go from, companies selecting one individual at a time, to more of an agency model where you go to a specific agency. That agency has different influencers with different lanes of expertise or lanes of audiences that you work with, because that right now is how people are capturing that trust factor that starts to get even more intense when economies turn and people are just trying to figure out how to mitigate risk. So here's smiling face of influencer that people trust. Here's proven domain experience. And that's, I think, how people are going to really start to open things up moving forward. Again, not rapid fire.
That's okay. Super interesting. In the context of revenue generation, you could only choose one. Are you focusing on customer retention or customer acquisition?
Retention. Said the top of funnel girl somehow.
So we're going to roll right into that. So earlier in the show, you said that you would go into CS, like you would quit top of funnel and you'd go into CS. It's tomorrow morning. What's the first thing you're doing? First thing.
Ooh, I'm calling all the churn risks. That's what I'm doing. I'm calling each and every one of the churn risk folks. And I'm just letting them vent. I'm letting them beat me up, and I am taking all of the notes. I'm doing this not as, Nikki CS rep who is evaluated on this. This is my account. If they churn, I'm in trouble, right? I'm doing this completely disconnected from whatever that outcome is, right? Really just trying to learn, because what I learned from these churn risk folks is going to be what I use when I start to put together that proactive and consistent outreach to those folks, and to the happy customers as well, right? Those are I'm going to meet with those people and listen to their stories, and those stories are going to be recorded interviews, video. It's going to go into all the training. Listen to me, I get all excited about this stuff. But yes, I would start with the people who are not having the best time, listen to them as to why, and then take that information and let it inform what we're doing across go-to-market.
Yeah, and pass it back to the top of funnel people, right? Because top of funnel, you want to know why they're churning. Awesome.
I love it. Nikki, thank you so much for spending time with us. This legit was a powerhouse knowledge session. Where can people find you? What is the best way to engage with you? Plug away.
Well, I'm ubiquitous, so you can find me. Kidding. On LinkedIn, I produce a lot of content on LinkedIn. It's a little bit more fun on Instagram.
100.
What's the Insta? I'm going to it right now.
Yeah.
It is No Nikki Ivey, and that's KNOW, as in get to know Nikki Ivey, not as in no Nikki Ivey. It's not as in rejection. Anyway, so it's No Nikki Ivey on Instagram and on Twitter. If you are averse to, if you're one of those people who would get all messed up in the head when you saw your teacher at the grocery store when you were younger, know that my Instagram and Twitter will give you those feelings. So fair warning before you go in, but it's all in good fun if you want to get to know Nikki Ivey.
I love it. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure.